Check it. In some of my previous videos, I've talked about machine learning and how machine learning is just basically a machine learning without expressly being programmed. But in the concept of machine learning, there are different types of machine learning. There's supervised learning, there's unsupervised learning, there is reinforcement learning. There's also something that is called semi-supervised learning. But in this video, we're going to concentrate on unsupervised and supervised. Supervised learning, just from the name itself, you'll see there's a bit of supervision, meaning the data that we use in supervised learning is labeled. So what the machine does, it uses this labeled data to understand all the different characteristics of the labels of the data that we have, and then try and make a prediction from new unlabeled data. I'll use the example that I usually use, the house price prediction, where if you have the price of a house and then you have different attributes of the house from number of bedrooms, distance from the road, number of square feet the house accommodates or is in, also consider things like safety index, town or city, etc. If you have all these attributes and then your predictive variable, your y, is the house price, and you have data from 10,000 houses and you know their house prices. Using this, you can use algorithms such as random forest regressor or support vector regressor to try and create a house prediction model that uses these algorithms that can take new data from a different house. You give it a house that is in a certain city, a number of square feet or number of meters squared it occupies, number of bedrooms, the safety index of the area, etc. And this house price prediction model will try and predict the price of this house. This is called supervised learning because from our initial data, we have the labels of the data that we have. Our Y is perfectly calibrated. But now when you move to unsupervised learning, from the name itself, it means it's unsupervised, meaning there is no specific labels in the data. So the algorithms that are used in unsupervised learning usually just try to cluster this data into groups using the data that we have. Using things like k-nearest neighbors or the k-means clustering, it just tries to label this data saying that this specific data belongs to a certain group, this specific data belongs to a certain group, but this specific data belongs to a certain group. Let's go back to supervised learning. In supervised learning, the two main categories are usually regression and classification. Regression usually tries to predict continuous data. When your Y is continuous, regression is what is used. It's a regression problem because it's trying to predict, like the house price is a regression problem because it can range, it has a range, it has a continuous answer. On the other hand, classification is where you're trying to classify something if it belongs to group A, group B, if according to the characteristics of the patient, you think he's suffering from tuberculosis or not, yes or no. Usually involves binary answers or categorical answers. There can be 2, 3, 4 categories, etc. The classic Titanic problem is a very good example because the Y is usually survived or did not survive. So it's the predictive column is survived. So it's either 0 or 1, 0 being a person did not survive or 1 being a person survived. And this is usually a classification problem, and using algorithms such as random forest classifiers or the support vector classifier or logistic regression or a decision tree usually help create the classification models that try and make a prediction from new data if a person belongs to group A or group B or C, etc. We talked about semi-supervised learning. Semi-supervised learning is the learning process of using both supervised and unsupervised. So if you have data that has a lot of unlabeled data and a little bit of labeled data, usually use a combination of the two to make use of both the different types of machine learning to get or predict the best you can. Things like text classifier models usually use semi-supervised learning as it involves both supervised and unsupervised learning. Reinforcement learning, on the other hand, uses a trial and error method where an agent interacts with the environment and any action that is desirable is rewarded and any undesirable behavior is punished. This is usually used in the simulations, in the self-driving cars and the gaming industry, etc., etc. If you have any questions, feel free to jump on the comment section and ask. Thank you very much for reaching the end of the video. Peace.